Hello and welcome to another Mobalytics video. I am your host Rakayu, and in this one we shall be looking at the 10 best jungle champions for you to main in Season 12. You might think it's a long ways away, but the placement games are actually coming up pretty quickly this year. As soon as patch 12.1 hits, you know the placement games are coming up fast, and so you need to get your practice in now. And thus we have compiled a list of the best champions for you to practice and main over the course of the beginning of the season to give you the best edge to carry and win your games. And of course, don't forget to download the Mobalytics companion app that will keep your champion data up to date as the patches go by, so you can keep track of which junglers are doing well and which junglers become an Udyr, well, at least before the rework. And I hope you won't mind if I start this list with Vi. I don't think anyone's actually going to be surprised about that. The Arcane show on Netflix really did give her a boost to her play rate, but as I've been talking about on my own channels, Vi has been a hidden OP for quite a few months. Reliable, easy to use, a button that can make even Vayne dread the fact that she's facing you. That's the Lockdown Ultimate for those of you who don't know. As such, her kit gives you huge reliability, and reliability is the most important in terms of loading a jungle and maining a jungle from game to game. Now, it's not just against Vaynes that you might have issues. If there's an OP mage, if there's a hyper carry like a Kog'Maw, if you are facing a Soraka and you want her to feel the pain that your team feels every time Soraka bails her team out with an ultimate, that point-and-click ultimate will always deliver. Now, the thing about Vi is, with those quality of life buffs they put in a few patches ago just to make things more reliable and standard, again, keyword there, that Q-Win Max is more than just a great knock-up engage tool. It simply allows you to move around the map and through walls very, very efficiently. And if you want to make sure you are dealing the most damage and having the most sustain and still being the most tanky, the Divine Sunder Asterix Gauge build with the Hail of Blades rune set is of course your standard go-to, but you can maybe flex into the Eclipse if you want a bit more bang for your buck, but remember, you will be more squishy. And even though she's not the most played in high elo and she's kind of fizzling out a little bit in terms of popularity, remember, if you want a champion to carry your placements with, she will do it almost better than anyone else. And now I know a lot of you are thinking and watching high elo VODs, watching streams and thinking, hey, why didn't you start with Talon? Oh, you mean the champion that can clear as fast as a Karthus and parkour over every wall across the map and rotate faster than a Hecarim, and basically had zero downside in the Conqueror Gore Drinker meta? Well, his recent success in meta domination, that didn't stop whatsoever. Talon just became more Talon in Season 12 when Riot nerfed his bonus damage to monsters from 150% to 130%. Where that will hit the most is in high elo, where, being able to farm and gank at the same sort of speed and tempo and maybe falling back to farming when things aren't available, that's really valuable to them. But for the majority of you, yes, you won't be able to clear as fast, you won't be able to AFK in the jungle, but you can still gank very easily, you can still get around the map very easily. You still have burst damage and a get out of danger ultimate if you need it, you still have that rake slow on the W, you still have a gap close on the Q, and of course the bleed damage passive. What this does is gives you the ability to carry every game even if you can't farm as fast as the previous patches. And yes, you can in theory still go Conqueror and Electrocute, those are good rune sets, but the Assassin build of choice, the absolute standard rune page, First Strike, Booties, Futures Market for extra cash money's investments, Cosmic Insight followed by Eyeball and either Relentless Hunter or Ultimate Hunter. And then if you've been paying attention to the meta whatsoever, you know you can go Flash Ignite on your summoner spells in addition to the Smite, but that you are still going the Eclipse Ghostblade meta. That's right, turns out a max HP damaging, movement speed granting, shield gaining, low cooldown passive item coupled with a Ghostblade movement speed boost. Yeah, that's a really potent assassin combo for survivability and of course annihilation. Follow that up with an Edge of Night, Serulda's Grudge, Axiomat depending on what the game state is, and you're looking at something that will carry any game. Now, Viego has to be the absolute next champion we talk about. His stats never really represent how strong he is because a lot of people still build him incorrectly, or they don't know how to use a squishier build path when you don't have the survivability. In the notes here, we have from Mobalytics discussing champion Riot Plays Remove, and with a cheeky smiley face. You know what, I can kind of agree with it. At the same time, it's the champion I coach the most and see the most in all the scouting. At the end of the day, is he fun to face? Always no, but is he fun to play? Of course. OP things tend to be fun to play when you're, face rolling your keyboard and killing everyone. While Viego has been nerfed from his Giga Auto Heal passive a few months ago, what he greatly benefits from in terms of maining is that he has a plethora of first clears and itemization choices. Maybe you're in a bit more of a higher elo or in a more serious situation like a Flex 5's tryhard moment or a Clash game and you need to be a bit more sustained. Pulling your Divine Sunder and Asterix Gauge Conqueror rune set will always carry you true. However, ever since the original nerfs on his healing, from a base 8 to 3%, and Riot amping more of his ability to scale with crit, the shield bow is the best best item, and that item needs to be nerfed, please Riot. But it makes his sustain and the ability to kill him so difficult at a one item spike, and the damage is simply unnatural. And when you add all of this together, this diversity of itemization, even if you go Shilbo or Divine Sundra, it's impossible to kill him when he's ahead because of the healing, because of the executes, and that's just healing from itemization if you're having a Blade of the Rune King, a Shilbo, things like that. But now you slap in a Soul Possession and people are tilted. And don't always think you just need to do a 5 camp. You can go Red, Raptors, Grump into Impact very, very easily. Look to diversify your playstyle with Viego, look to diversify your itemization, and you will have immense success in Season 12. Next up, we have to talk about Lee Sin. Historically, the most dominant, the most popular, the most pleasing to watch. In China, he's so popular, they give him splash outs for his chromas. Now, is he really struggling in this general meta ever since the Conqueror nerfs and ever since his direct nerfs? Yes, he is, but then, they just buffed Conqueror again. Gold Drinker is looking actually fine because, we're not apparently allowed to have no Gold Drinker, no Conqueror for a little bit, so go watch your high elo games. He is still dominating the game, and honestly, you can go Eclipse as well. You can go full Assassin if you want. I'm not telling you in Silver to necessarily go spam 100 games of Lee Sin. He is a high skill ceiling pick. He is fun to play, but you have to understand he works better the higher elo you are. You don't innately scale into the late game like a lot of other champions on this list. You don't have the same sort of impact if you are behind, but because of course you have item diversity, you can go tanky if you need to. There's combos that basically could be a textbook. If everything is going badly for you, you simply have to do a Meteos game-winning kick after doing nothing for 60 minutes. Now here's a champion most of you would not expect. Nunu and Willem. Champions? I don't know, how do we say that? The most notable thing is with the buff to the tank itemization for Season 12, with the removal of the AFK farm meta, thank goodness, map mobility and early ganks are what get your laners ahead, make them happy with you, and of course get you ahead. And if you didn't realize it, the thematic here very much so is versatile itemization. Do you want to go AP full-on damage Giga one-shot mode? You can do this. You have a Lulu Jinx and you just simply want to give the Jinx a bit of passive while you peel and disrupt and annoy? Go full tank. Obviously that itemization was boosted and that's still the best default way to carry. And then you do have the support utility way of playing, although I do think you should either go tank or full damage. But the huge benefit to Nunu in this case, obviously the objective control, obviously the river patrol ganking up and down, and yes, the literal snowballing. But in the majority of elos where junglers have no idea how to counteract immense pressure from an enemy jungler, how they cannot track you appropriately to counter gank and cut you off, you are forcing them to simply chase the ball. And if you've played any sort of sport whatsoever, you know that if you're chasing the ball the whole time, it's bad defense. Exact same thing here. You are forcing them to chase you, to react to you, to not play their game plan, to feel the pressure, all because you are playing Nunu and Willem. Now I have to talk about Graves, unfortunately, because he always finds a way to be dominant. Now Riot will nerf his base AD, they will nerf his passive, and then they will realize, wow, he's ruined, we should buff those things again. And then they do, and then Graves shows up and says, still I rise, and dominates the meta once more. As most of you know who frequent my channel, I like to say that Graves is the best at jungle flow, at understanding how to slither around the map. He's just a smooth operator, much like a Nidalee in that regard. If he counter jungles you, he's in and out before you notice. If he wants to do a level 2 gank, he can do that. If he wants a vertical jungle or play till 6, he can do that as well. So much damage, close range bursts, one-shot carries, and in a word, Immortal Shilbo. Now, Xin Zhao was one of the most consistent jungle picks in most drafts, even though he was a recent meta-dominant champion with the Gold Drinker and of course the Conqueror, like Talon everyone remembers Worlds, and even though he's a little bit weaker in the current meta, if you want to do a level 2 gank or a 3 camp gank or a 5 camp or even a full clear, you can still do these things. While he isn't as strong as he has been in that recent dominance, his early ganks, his pressure, his damage, his self-healing, his skirmish power, and honestly, that underrated teamfight ultimate make him an S-tier great jungler for all of you no matter what exact playstyle you want to play. Unlike Talon swapping to that first strike assassin rune page, he sticks true to the Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity. You can even go Last Stand as the last rune if you want. Booties into Cosmic Insight. That is the most default rune page for all champions with Gold Drinker, Sterix Gauge. Flex into your sort of Wits Ends, GAs, and Death's Dance, and enjoy winning. The next one we have here is Fiddlesticks, and honestly, one of the best champions to main, never will really be directly nerfed, always finds himself relevant in the meta, and yes, even as a power farmer. The most important aspect of Fiddlesticks though is while you can go the nerfed Predator rune because he was going it before it was buffed anyway, First Strike is looking like a very appealing rune set as well. I'm not a fan of Dark Harvest, but you can run it. Ultimately, I think you have got Predator, Electrocute, and First Strike as your core 3. He really likes Futures Market especially, and the booties with Cosmic Insight just suits him so well. And at the end of the day, you don't really need to feel that same pressure to gank and impact the map. While it's a good practice and while I think you need to, you still want to get to level 6 as soon as possible. It is absolutely game-changing. Make sure you're stitching your camps together, your blue and your wolves, your blue and your grump, your raptors and your red. Get that down as low as you can. Look for opportunistic ganks early, of course, but when you get to level 6, you are picking the best angles, you are hopping over every single wall. Hibbity hoppity, your soul is now my property. You are scaling like a beast, and in games where you're a little bit behind, as long as you kept up your farming and objective control, one stupid ARAM fight by the enemy team, one gathering and a chokehold by the enemy team, and you are looking at a triple kill to a pentakill for you. And then of course you have access to bounties because you've killed them all, and now you can say thanks for the LP guys, plus 18 for me. Now as this really was in no particular order, please don't think it's a countdown or a counting up, but the second last champion we have here is Kha'Zix, or as I like to call him, Kha'Zix the Eternal, because no matter the meta, no matter the season, this dude is always the best assassin jungler. That is of course being challenged by Talon and a few others lately, but over the course of a season he is always the one that remains atop the tier list unless Riot directly intervenes, and even when they do, like nerfing the Q, he still finds a way to adapt, overcome, and evolve, which of course gives us thematic cohesion to the champion's lore and his kit. But it's not just in his ability to take over games with his ultimate and his snowball component. That's pretty obvious, but when you have all these different kinds of evolve paths available to you, mostly in high elo you go W second for sure, it's just a case of do I go Q or R first, and then you say, right, what shall my rune set be? Do I want to go Electrocute? Dark Harvest. First strike assassination page, much like our Talon friend, except in this case you would go Sudden Impact and maybe Ravenous. The Relentless and Ultimate Hunter are just as good. And then once you've decided that and decided your playstyle, now we can flex our itemization. Do we want Duskblade, Prowler's Claw, or Eclipse? Pick a playstyle, any playstyle, and Kha'Zix will give you success in Season 12 and in any meta. Finally, we have Echo. He snowballs insanely hard, that's what you know. He has crazy mobility, that's what you know. And he has the ultimate face check reset button, that you know. However, for me, the best thing about this champion is while it's not a hard farming meta anymore, it gives him a bit of catch up in terms of his own clears, which are slightly slower. However, that clear speed does have an exponential curve. It's that when a lot of champions are looking to have good impact early, at least get a few ganks pre-sigs, the best counter ganker in the game, bar none, is Echo. If you can track an enemy jungler to a gank, if you can understand where they're pathing, and you wait for them to use their gap close or their flash or what have you, and you throw down your 2.25 second stun W, that is absolutely free real estate, and honestly, when you do that, now you can activate your snowball potential, become impossible to shut down because of your ultimate, because of the rocket butt mobility, because of your Zhonya's. You can absolutely pop any carries and squishies without being punished. And what's that? You didn't quite get fed and you want Nash's Tooth because the enemy team's a bit tankier and you want split push component? You can do that as well. The ultimate and original OP shifty snowball kid from a few years ago is here to carry you in Season 12. And there you have it, 10 junglers for you to main in Season 12. Let us know in the comments which one you are thinking of picking. Maybe you have one outside of this list. Please do like, share, and comment if you did enjoy and learn something. Don't forget to subscribe to Mobalytics for all the amazing Season 12 content coming very soon. They are ramping things up big time. I have been your host, Vakayu, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.